Hello everybody. So you are continuing developing your curriculum guides, and we have added in our objectives and broken them down by units. You have added prerequisites. You have added assessments, and in your mind you have redefined how you think of assessments. And in this section we're going to look at resources. Now, resources are what you are going to use to teach the objective. Now, a common thing I expect that you would put in there would be the textbook, if you have a textbook. Beyond that, though, I want you to think beyond the textbook and really start thinking about how you can present the information to the students and how the students can express their understanding and mastery of the content, and what resources would you need to use here. One of the big things that I would encourage you to search for is going to be internet resources. And don't just throw up web pages where students have to go through and hunt and peck. Find some quality internet sources that you could use. But especially if you are a math teacher, you would include some manipulatives, hopefully. Maybe you have a program that's vetted, meaning it has gone through the alignment process and your district is pretty confident that it's aligned, and so you're going to use a program, so maybe you want to add the program in. All the resources that you would need to use in order to teach the objective. Even on the outside extreme, that may be a field trip that would enhance the objective would be used. Maybe if you were in teaching Oklahoma history and you were going to do a day field trip to the state capitol, or a museum that highlighted what you were teaching, you would include that. Maybe even in any course you're going to use some writing, and even though you don't teach writing, maybe you teach history, or maybe you even teach math and you want the students to write. Those types of resources need to be included here. Either links to them or the names and where they're located and so forth. So as you're developing this curriculum guide, what I want you to keep in mind is this is for all teachers, because as you develop curriculum documents, you're going to start getting into a regular rotation, and we've already discussed this in the discussion board of how you would go through regular rotation cycles with your curriculum so that it's always up to date. So it's for all teachers, but it's especially for those new teachers and those novice teachers with just a few years experience. We can all remember back to the time when we first started teaching and had the minimal qualifications because we were able to get out of our teacher ed programs or be licensed by the state, which those things state that you have met the minimum qualifications to be a teacher. So think of that as you're providing resources and creating this document. So also in your readings we have discussed this concept of no surprises. No surprises means that when your students are faced with the summative test, and in many instances we're talking about the state test, whether it's the end of year exam or the CRTs for 3rd through 8th grade. But I want you to broaden your mind here. Also think of the AP exams, the ACT exam, the SAT exam, and the subparts of each of those. The concept of no surprises means that your students are going to encounter material on the exam that they have already seen in class. So then, how would this look in your classroom? Ultimately, what you're going to have to do is look at these exams and understand how they're written. so that the students can not only deal with the stuff that's on the exam, but go beyond it. Okay. So, for example, if the students are asked to write a 5-paragraph theme on something for the exam, then by the time they get to exam, we want them writing small papers, 5 pages, not 5 paragraphs, and explain that concept within it. That they're going to have multiple little 5-paragraph themes throughout the whole paper. That's what we want them to understand, or that's what you need to understand with this concept of no surprises. That all the things on the exam the students will have seen in their class, and so this is where you can bring in resources to meet that. What kind of resources are necessary for you to address all aspects that students will encounter on exam? And initially here we're talking about the way that questions are asked and the content, but in a deep alignment piece that we would get into in Curriculum 2, we would talk about the cognition level. And in other words, not just the cognition level that we're asking the students to perform, but the cognition level that they use to present the information, that we use to give the information. All that will come into play eventually, but you got to get the groundwork laid here. So like I said, so far we have looked at objectives, we have looked at prerequisites, and we have looked at assessments. And now we're going to add resources. So the objectives, again, I think I have some criterion ratings for these. We don't need to go through them all. You have this PowerPoint. Here are your criterion ratings for resources. So the minimal level is 0. Do you mean this would mean that you don't even mention a textbook or anything, it's just blank. If you get a 1, that means that you have at least mentioned the textbook that you're using. Okay? In order to raise it to a 2, you would need to provide the textbook and the supplementary materials that you're going to be using. The websites, that kind of stuff, the manipulatives, those kinds of things. If you want a 3, then you state for each objective the match between the instructional material, the resources, the supplemental materials and so forth, and the curriculum objectives. Okay, so you can see how easily this goes from a 0 to a 3. Aim for that 3 here, just like on assessments. I think a 3 here is fairly easy to reach, and so I would say aim for that 3. So with that, I bid you good luck. Enjoy hunting down all your resources, and make sure that you add resources for all your units.